audio first.
Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Seeing that it's 6 o'clock, I'd like to call this school board meeting to order. First on the agenda will be a statement, and I will, because of the remote and the COVID conditions. As chair of the Mascoma Valley Regional School District School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, members of this public body are authorized to meet electronically. The physical location of this meeting is at the Mascoma Valley Regional High School. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing additional public access to the meeting by telephone and Zoom. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting by clicking the Zoom link. Meeting ID is, let me get it right here, 823-98-903165, or dialing the following phone number, 301-715-8592. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting using Zoom or telephonically via the public notice. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the Mascoma Valley Regional School District. With that said, I do have two members that are joining us by Zoom. I'll ask Tim Josephson, Vice Chair.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. I can't turn my video on for some reason. So, but yes, I am here, and for reasons due to COVID, I am at my home in Canaan.
Thank you. Hope Stride now.
I am at home for reasons due to COVID, and I can't either. So I turn my video on. So it's all good.
Thank you. I have at the high school media center, we have Candace Fry, Kathleen Stacy, Danielle Thompson, and myself, Cookie Hebert. The only member I do not have joining us via Zoom is Brewster Gove, and he might be joining us in a bit. Okay. Seeing there's no other housekeeping to do with that, I'll ask everyone if they could stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the non-public and public meeting minutes of Tuesday, March 23rd of 2021. That was our long reorganization meeting. So there was quite a few different topics.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes, both public and non-public, of March 23rd, 2021.
Second. Thank you, Kathleen. Jim?
Oh,
Danielle. No, sorry. Yeah, didn't look at, sorry. You wrote Kathleen. Any comments, any questions, any corrections? Thank you again, Kamala.
Yeah, that was not an easy one to keep up on.
Yeah, exactly.
like Eddie R, honestly.
Seeing none,
Nothing jumped out.
roll call vote. All those in favor of the meeting minutes for non-public and public meeting minutes of March 23rd, 2021. Roll call, Tim Josephson.
Aye.
Hope Stride now.
Aye.
Candace Fry. If you approve the meeting minutes, you just say aye.
I did.
Oh, sorry.
Math.
Kathleen.
I
don't know. I heard aye. Kathleen Stacy. Aye. Danielle Thompson. Aye. And Cookie Hebert, yes.
I'm supposed to say aye.
So that is.
I'm
Aye.
supposed to say aye.
Yeah, thank you. You got my job over here.
I never get to sit next to you.
600. And like I said, Brewster was supposed to be joining through Zoom, so He may be trying, Pamela, so I'm not sure. So. Okay, at this time, I'll open it up to public comment. And if you're joining us electronically, if you would raise your hand. I don't see anything. Anybody here? Tim? Sure, Tim. Just state your name and the town you're from for the minutes, please.
Sure. Can I just speak from here? Or do I need to go?
No, please speak.
Okay, I'm Tim Monahan from Enfield. I just wanted to speak real quick. I know that the board has received lots of input probably from parents, but there's been a group of parents that have been circulating and they've asked me to come and talk to you real quick about next year and about scheduling. There's a sort of groundswell that kids need to have some normal, if there's ever going to be such a thing. I feel a little absurd even saying the word, to be honest. Some of you know what I do. I work for juvenile justice. A number of years working with state government for DCYF and with kids directly. And I work with this population, teenagers. That's what I do. And I feel like kids are going to really be needing as much flexibility as possible to recover in lots of ways in the fall. Recover academically, socially, and just readjusting in any way possible to what we hope is normal. Normal for sports, normal for academics, normal for guidance and everything else. I have kids in just about every developmental stage. My oldest is going to graduate this June. But I would strongly encourage the board to go back to an 8-period schedule this fall. I think that these kids need that flexibility. They need back to normal, and normal is an 8-period schedule. I'm not saying never go to block, but it was a very quick decision that was made, and there was not a lot of planning. You didn't have an opportunity. Everybody did the best they could when they could, given what was thrown at them. All of us, we all had to do a dance, basically, in the midst of this stuff. And now you've got this challenge of, hey, governor says everybody back to school in 2 weeks. And you got to do that again right now, and we've all got to do it, and that's great. My kids are actually psyched about it. I thought they would be like, Dad. They're happy about it. Good. Don't look at gift horse. Okay, but I would strongly encourage you, make that call. Make it now. Let the parents know. Come fall, we're going back to what we've always been, and then, in your wisdom, if you want to do block at some point in the future, take the time to study it, to involve not just the kids, but the parents in the community. Hear their concerns about it, hear what they think would work, hear the arts community, this glorious, I call it sort of, this is our trademark right here, our beautiful theater. Hear the staff's concerns about it and make it work in a way that everybody knows. But what I know is that kids need the flexibility, and that's only going to happen if you have the ability to let your guidance department and everything else move around. You also have more kids enrolling in mental health services than ever before right now. Those counseling appointments are going to need flexibility. Those are just facts. I mean, I could go into a lot of other stuff that I know from professionally what I'm seeing. There are more kids that are going to be involved in the child protection system than ever before once CPSWs are in homes again. And that's starting to open up only now. Everybody is going to need to have that support. And what I would tell you is that having it something that resembles what we used to be is the best thing we could all do. So thank you for your time. And I will tell you, thank you for all you've been doing. I know everybody's been working hard at it, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank Amanda for the absolute phenomenal job. And Christy Letson for teaching kindergarten by Zoom, because if you guys have not experienced it, take a few minutes to watch kindergarten by Zoom. It's a trip.
Thank you, Tim. Any other public comment? Just a note for the minute, Bruce DeGove has signed on at 6:06. Okay. And tonight we have a presentation, the YRBS report, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. And we have Andrea Smith with us, and I believe that's via Zoom.
I am. Yep. Can you hear me?
We can.
Perfect. Yeah, it won't let me share my video either, which is fine. I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I emailed a little bit ago, but if I'm able to share my screen, I'm more than happy to do that.
Is it showing up at the bottom of your computer?
Yep, it looks like I am able to. So let me go ahead and try. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for giving me some time on your agenda to present on the district's Youth Risk Behavior Survey data. My name is Andrea Smith. I am a Community Health Partnership Coordinator for Dartmouth-Hitchcock, and I work on substance misuse prevention across the Upper Valley. I'm also a co-facilitator for our regional coalition Altogether. Tonight, I'd like to tell you about these two local coalitions, explain the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, review the district data, and then discuss prevention and what we can do, and if we have time, take some questions. Before I start in with the data from the survey, I'd like to take a minute to share a bit about Altogether and the Public Health Council of the Upper Valley. Altogether is a community resource for prevention, treatment, recovery, and advocacy of substance misuse and suicide. We envision an Upper Valley region where all people are safe, healthy, supported, connected, and valued. We are a regional coalition made up of diverse stakeholders. Our volunteer members are from all sectors of the community, such as safety and law enforcement, health and medical, community and family supports, education, business, government, faith leaders, media, parents, and youth. We invite all community members to join us in our work. Our goal at Altogether is to reduce the harms of substance misuse and prevent suicide in the Upper Valley region. By using a data-driven and evidence-based process, we engage all sectors of the community in building awareness around alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs and risk factors of suicide. We are working to ensure evidence-based prevention, early intervention, appropriate referrals, knowledgeable case management, improved treatment access, and recovery supports to community members. We develop a robust regional prevention capacity by maintaining a coalition at the regional level and supporting local coalitions to target and reduce the harms of alcohol, tobacco, other drugs, and to prevent suicide in our region. The Public Health Council of the Upper Valley is one of the state of New Hampshire's 13 regional health networks, which also serves 22 communities in Vermont. The Public Health Council of the Upper Valley has quickly become the largest and broadest coalition of advocates on public and population health issues in the greater Upper Valley region. The Public Health Council of the Upper Valley is comprised of community leaders and representatives from many sectors. These partners work together to create more healthy, safe, supportive, and vital Upper Valley. The mission of the Public Health Council is to improve the health of Upper Valley residents through shared public health initiatives and services within a network of community stakeholders. And the reason I share about the Public Health Council of the Upper Valley is Altogether is the Public Health Council's work group for addressing substance misuse in the community. Now, a little bit about the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. This is a national survey conducted by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention every 2 years among representative samples of 9th through 12th grade students. The survey monitors 6 types of health risk behaviors that contribute to the leading causes of death and disability among youth and adults, including behaviors that contribute to unintentional injuries and violence, sexual behaviors that contribute to unintended pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases, alcohol and other drug use, tobacco use, unhealthy dietary behaviors, and inadequate physical activity. YRBS also measures the prevalence of obesity and asthma among youth and young adults in high school. In New Hampshire, the YRBS is jointly administered by the Departments of Health and Human Services and Education. The data from the YRBS are used extensively by health departments, schools, and local area agencies to define areas of high health risk and to secure the resources necessary to address any identified issues. Unfortunately, we do not receive the results, and when I say we, I mean groups like All Together. We do not receive the results until about a year after the survey is administered, making it difficult to implement strategies in a timely manner. However, All Together uses this data to guide strategic plans, annual work plans, and school or geographic specific prevention initiatives. So a little bit about the district's results. The 2019 survey response rate at Mascoma Valley Regional High School was 81%, meaning 261 of the 321 enrolled students took the survey. 125 students identifying as female and 129 students identifying as male completed the survey. And you can see over to the right a breakdown by grade. However, student privacy must remain a #1 priority. The questionnaire is designed to protect the anonymity of students, so no names or other types of personally identifying information is ever requested. So tonight I'll be providing just a little bit of information about the electronic vapor use, feeling unsafe at school, relationships, emotional health, current use trends, perception of use trends, and early onset use. Now, I do ask that you keep in mind that this survey does not give us the why, the reasons why the data is the way that it is. It just gives us a snapshot into the data. So to start, in terms of past 30-day use of e-cigarettes or vaping, we see that vaping continues to be a concern throughout the entire state of New Hampshire. Mascoma's reported use is 36.1%, whereas the state is at 33.8%. Currently, the highest reported use was among 12th graders. However, tobacco use within the past 30 days is still a bit higher than the state average, but we are seeing a steady downward trend, which is great. So this question falls under the bullying, electronic bullying, and fighting category. Students are asked during the past 30 days, and again, please remember this is the past 30 days as when they took the survey in 2019. On how many days did you not go to school because you felt you would be unsafe at school or on your way to or from school? So you can see this number continues to vary from year to year, but in 2019, 5.4% of the students reported not going to school at least one day within those past 30 days due to feeling unsafe. We saw a slight increase in sexual and physical dating violence in 2019. Sexual violence increased from 6 to 6.2%, whereas physical dating violence increased from 5.9 to 7.3%. So as a reminder, WISE is an organization that's an excellent resource for dating violence prevention. Now, when it comes to talking about emotional health, unfortunately, this data, again, is from 2019. I suspect that it would be, it would look a little bit different right now with COVID. But over 1/3 of students reported feeling sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 or more weeks in a row during the past 12 months. So to continue with emotional health, you can see over here, we've got 3 different categories: hurt themselves, attempted suicide, or considered suicide. The plus and minus signs indicate whether we are above or below state averages. And then the arrows below that indicate whether Mascoma's rates are going up or down. So you can see that there's a lot of work that needs to be done around mental health abuse across not just the region, but across the entire country, especially adding in the social isolation from COVID. And I just wanted to share here as a reminder, the suicide hotline is always open. And I did want to share, if folks are not aware, that they have created a new number. It is 988, a new 3-digit number, and that will become effective in July of 2022. Which is really great. So it's similar to how folks can just dial 911 or 211. This number will be effective in July of 2022, where people can call 988 to get the National Suicide Hotline. So this slide here looks at reported use in the past 30 days of 3 different substances. So a bit that I wanted to share from this. Data for past 30-day use of a prescription medication without a doctor's prescription is too small to analyze with confidentiality, which is a great thing. I also wanted to share that students consistently reported a decrease in ease of access to prescription medications without a doctor's prescription, which again is really excellent to see. I mentioned that we don't have the why to any of this, but I did want to share that this could be in part due to our efforts with the Twin States Safe Meds campaign and National Prescription Drug Take Back initiatives. We are seeing a slight increase in marijuana use, but I did want to share, I don't have it on this graph, but I did want to share that the rates doubled for synthetic marijuana use from 4 to 8.7%. However, we are seeing a downward trend in past 30-day use of alcohol, which is really great to see. And the report did not give me trend data for binge drinking, but I can say that the districts came in at 9.7%, which again is lower than the state average, which is really great. And another positive thing is that heroin and meth data for 2019, again, was suppressed because the number was too small to analyze with confidentiality. So that's great news as well. But I did want to share that we were informed by the DEA of New England that they are starting to see meth coming into New England in the form of pills that look like Adderall. They are saying that it appears that they are targeting high school age youth. So I have a little bit more information I can share. Excuse me, an infographic I can share about that. So when looking at perceived risk of harm trends for binge drinking, this is the percent of students who think people are at a great risk of harming themselves, whether it's physical or in other ways, if they have 5 or more drinks of alcohol once or twice a week. And then marijuana, again, is the percent of students who think people are at great risk of harming themselves if they use marijuana once or twice a week. So you'll see a downward trend of perception of harm. But I just want to share, this is only showing the number of students that report great risk. So students still have the option to answer that they feel that using marijuana or alcohol once or twice a week could still be a moderate risk or a slight risk. This data is just showing us the students that chose great risk. So I just wanted to share that. And then we saw in the previous slide, again, that downward trend of perceived risk to themselves and others. But this slide here is showing that students are still perceiving that their peers feel it would be wrong or very wrong for them to engage in use of these substances. So the question specifically asks students, how wrong do your friends feel it would be for you to have 1 or 2 drinks nearly every day, or for you to smoke marijuana? So you can see here again that, that students still perceive that their peers feel that it would be wrong. And then here I wanted to end the data portion of this little tidbit. So the longer you can delay onset of use of any substance, the less likely an individual will develop a use disorder. And here you can see that this is trending downwards, which is excellent. So, you know, in conclusion, there are some areas that we can really celebrate, like the use of alcohol is decreasing, the use of prescription drugs without a doctor's prescription, like I mentioned, was so low they couldn't analyze with confidentiality. So this really shows that the myth that everyone is using is not the case. But we certainly still have work to be done around mental health, vaping, and perception of harm around substances. So what can we do, or what is being done? I think that we can spin that messaging. We can share the positive message to students, letting them know that not everybody is out drinking on the weekends. You can join all together to further the work that we're doing and to help reduce substance misuse in our community. And then we can also research ways to increase mental health services through things like advocacy and things like that. Some things that we've been working on to address this. So during COVID, we worked closely with the Upper Valley Strong Group and developed out of the child care committee, we developed a committee called Teen Concerns. Just really at that point, we were concerned with the lack of things for teens and youth in our area to do while still physically distancing themselves when COVID was first beginning. So we created this teen concerns group. It meets monthly, and it's made up of various community partners, people from education. We've got retired educators that are in there. So it's a great way to learn a little bit more about what's going on and to also share some concerns that you've been seeing. So I do have my email up on the screen if anybody is interested in getting more information about that teen concerns group. And then we are about to launch our 2021 community survey, which helps give us data from parents, guardians, and adults in the community around substance use, what they're seeing, and their perception of substance use. So this data helps to generate work plans for upcoming years. We will be asking schools to send this survey out, so please consider taking the anonymous survey and sharing it with your peers when you get this. And then we also continue to try to find ways to bring educational workshops to the community around substance use. We've had to get a little creative with COVID this year, but that's something that we are continuing to work on. And as always, we are a support for schools to help develop policies, find evidence-based prevention programming to provide students, and a general resource on all things prevention. We're here to help you. And that's all that I have. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions from the board?
I have just like really quick questions. You said I wrote down the slide so we were going to remember. On slide 11, it said there was a decrease in access to prescription drugs for kids. Is that statewide, or is that just in Mascoma, or both?
I don't have that answer with me right now. If you give me a couple minutes, I can look it up. But
no, that's a good thing, and that means that steps that have been taken over the last several years appear to be working as far as being able to make sure that people can keep them locked up and out of reach and stuff like that. So that's a very good thing. And then the other real quick question I had: the teen concerns group that you mentioned at the end, is that just for like people involved who work with teens, or does it have teens on there too, or what else is that? Is it just kind of like a resource group?
Yeah, it's really still, I can't say that it's still a new group,
right? But
the goal of that group is always changing. So we welcome anybody that would like to join that. We would love to have a youth join that group, but that is one thing that Altogether has struggled with, is getting youth representation and youth to participate and be part of our efforts. And it really, again, it's for anybody. So it started just initially to hear from our community partners what they were seeing. So we had a lot of folks from the schools joining to tell us what they were seeing in the schools. We had people that worked with teens to tell us about that, but it's sort of shifted now as that started over in the summertime, and as schools started to open up, we lost quite a bit of participation. But now it's really kind of just a work group where we talk about what people are seeing, and then we develop things that, ways that we can address that. And if it's not something that we can address as a small group, we try to come up with decide what resources are out there and figure out the best way to get that information out to the community.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And just to go back to that prescription question, I just have a little plug that the DEA's National Prescription Drug Take Back Day is coming up. It is April 24th. And we do have Canaan Police and Enfield Police participating. So please be sure to gather all of those unused and unwanted medications and bring them down to either of those police stations.
Great. Anyone else? Danielle?
Hi, Andrea. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
So it's very fitting that we have your presentation this week, because it's National Public Health Week. And so, the work that's happening through Altogether and the Public Health Network of the Upper Valley and Greater Sullivan and all of the other public health entities in the state is really important. And you've also played an important part in the vaccine rollout. So just wanted to give a little plug for that, and say thanks for all of the efforts that are going out through population health, and our public health networks for making that happen. And I'm glad that you mentioned the drug take back day at the end of this month. It was on my list to mention. One of the things that the YRBS has in the past indicated was around some of the protective factors. So things like, do students feel that the community supports them? Do you have a sense of how Mascoma's trending as far as those sorts of questions on how supported the students feel from the community?
I did not actually see that question in the report that I have, but I can go back and look into that to see if I can find that. One thing that we have found, I will say, let me start off by saying that I have been in this position for a year now, so I haven't been part of the YRBS rollout in previous years, but I will say, in talking with my colleagues here in the Upper Valley, and then like you mentioned, Greater Sullivan, that New Hampshire has taken some questions out. They were not included in 2019. So that certainly could be one of them. Just because it wasn't on the report that I saw doesn't mean that they weren't asking that. So let me, Danielle, look into that a bit more and see if I can get some information for you.
Okay, great. Yeah, that would be helpful. And it's quite possible that that has fallen off the priority list, things like vaping and some of the other substance use and other questions I know are top of mind when thinking about prevention and policy work. So that's very possible. One of the things that we have access to has been some funding because of COVID, and I know we've talked about possibly using some of that to help with social emotional learning and increased mental health programming or accessibility. Do you have any other awareness of other districts that are doing anything similar, or things that you've heard about through the public health community that would be good for us to know about, either as far as specific programmatic options, or just on how best to leverage that kind of funding, knowing that it is not necessarily something that's going to be sustained by the state in the long run? How can we make the most of this opportunity to make sure that we are doing what's best for our kids and our community, and not having to pull the plug on that a couple years down the road when the ESSER funds run out?
Yeah, that's a great question. The one thing that comes to, well, I've got a few things that come to the top of my mind. There is another district in the Upper Valley that is really looking to address the mental health concerns of students right now. I don't believe they have any additional funding, but I can share that they are looking to offer a parent workshop to go over with them the information that students are receiving in the school regarding suicide prevention. So the curriculum that they are using, the idea is to offer it to parents in the community on a one-time, one-night workshop, so that they understand the messaging that their students are receiving. And the hope is that they will then be able to talk to their children about talk to their children effectively when maybe their child comes to them with a problem or an issue, or has a concern about maybe a friend. So again, I don't think that that costs any money, but that is one option. There is an agency in New Hampshire called the New Hampshire Teen Institute. None of their programs are jumping out at the top of my head, but I know that they have a lot of different programs, or I'll say educational workshops as well, that are prepared, that address a variety of topics. So that's something that I'm more than happy to look into to see if any of their ready-made workshops would be beneficial. So those are the two things that are really jumping out of the top of my head. Because again, you like you said, you bring up the idea that the funds are limited. So of course we want to look at something that that can be used without having to cut the program. So I am one of 12 other substance misuse prevention coordinators through the state of New Hampshire, and we meet monthly to discuss all things prevention. So that is something that I can bring up with that group as well to see what else is being done across the state.
That'd be great, thanks. And even if you bring some of that information back to perhaps our next wellness meeting, which is in a couple of months, that'd be a great place to share with that group, and then we can bring it back to the full board. It's also, mental health was one of those, and social emotional learning was a component of our strategic plan as well. And any way that we can further those interests and the supports for kids and students will be helpful. So thanks so much.
Can I ask a question? Because I know you love student input, Danielle.
Yes, thank you.
So I feel like mental health in the high school is serious, but I know some kids, they definitely have trouble maybe saying something, and so maybe sometimes they're not necessarily comfortable with their counselor, and they don't want to necessarily go to them, so they just don't say anything at all. And that's, as someone who is dealing with and like has mental health issues and stuff, and I know it's so important to talk to people, and I just feel like we don't really have someone where we can, like, I'm totally comfortable with my counselor, but I know sometimes people aren't, and we have a mental health counselor, and she didn't really do a lot, but that's okay. But even if we don't have the funds, I feel like even like a workshop or something would be very beneficial, because I don't know that my parents always say this, but I don't really care. They definitely, there isn't like a guide to how to like help kids with like mental like illnesses and stuff. And so I feel like something like that would be definitely beneficial for just like parents who like, they might not necessarily like see the signs or like know what they are, because I feel like things are definitely different than when like our parents were like growing up or anything like that. And so it's definitely not always easy to approach your kid about it, and it's not easy to approach a parent about it. And sometimes it needs to be approached and they just don't know how to. And I feel like something like, even I don't know what we do for like health class anymore and like how we talk about that, but I definitely feel like having something more, because mental health is such a huge issue, and it's just, I hate seeing people like depressed and having anxiety attacks. It really hurts me that they don't necessarily have someone to go to. And I've definitely saved some lives, which is kind of scary, and it makes me nervous that they have to reach out over a text to try and get help when they can't necessarily like get someone in person because they don't feel comfortable. And it's definitely hard because we don't really have anywhere. And so maybe just like seeing if we could, even I feel like twice a month, if someone was to like come in and like just like do like a wellness check. And yes, we have SEL, but I don't know, at least in mine, we go deep. But I know that maybe some other groups, they don't, but I definitely feel like mental health should be brought up more. And like, especially with the pandemic, it's hard. And like, it's taken a toll on everyone, not just teens. Like even the adults, it's very hard to cope. And I know that parents don't necessarily like know how to like approach it because no one's ever been through this before. And so I just feel like there's more that we could be doing in like school wise. Because next month it's mental health awareness.
Yeah, you're right.
So, I definitely feel like there's stuff that we can be doing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Isabel.
You're welcome.
Tiffany?
As a segue to Isabel's comments, I was wondering if there is a suggestion or some type of way for a student to reach out and knowing what the first step is. Like, is there a hotline? Is there a specific point of contact? And what they could expect if the therapy that they receive, is it individual counseling? Is it a combination of group with peer counseling? What could they expect to receive? And I also have concerns about the future because in New Hampshire, there isn't a very good program, a strong program in place for teenagers. Do you have any suggestions for us, Andrea?
I don't have suggestions in terms of everything that you had mentioned, but Amanda, I would love to sit down with you and, a group of people to talk about how we could develop some of those things to be able to provide that education to the students. It sounds like, from, I think Isabel, is that your name that I heard speaking? Isabel, it sounds like a lot of education around, you mentioned that some students may not feel comfortable with their counselor, but it's really important that even if you're not comfortable with that counselor, just identifying a safe adult that you trust that you can go to at least as that first step to talk to that person. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the school, it can be in your personal life, but so I would be more than happy to sit down and bring some colleagues that are maybe better experts in the field to the table to be able to develop some sort of educational resource or some way to start to get that information out to students.
Great, thank you. Hope, did you have anything? I didn't want to miss you. Okay, I wasn't sure. I want to be sure. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I will open it up for public comment if there's anyone that has anything. Tim?
Yep, Tim Monahan from Medfield. Just to add, there are a number of service options that are coming out with the Family First Act, the federal legislation. There are also a number of services available now if people want that help. The Fast Forward program is available if people want help. Families can actually reach out to that and get a referral for that through a school. You don't have to have a probation officer or DCYF. That people can self-refer for that. They can do full wraparound, and there's no charge. You don't have to have Medicaid or any of that. What I will say though is that you may want to, and Danielle, I can loop in on this. As someone who is a trainer for suicide prevention and postvention through NAMI New Hampshire, I can loop in Ann Douglas, who's sort of guru of that stuff. There could be something that was put together for the school, but as far as what I heard Isabel talking about, it's so cool to see you up there because you were 7 having birthday cake at the house.
Very true.
Talking it up there with the chairperson. And all that. If none of you have ever heard former Chief Justice John Broderick give his speech about mental health, that is the person to have come to the auditorium.
We did.
And speak, because that he could tell you the warning signs, and if the parents could hear him talk about it, that's the person. But I'll put that out there that if you want a connection to the person at NAMI New Hampshire, Ann Douglas is on my speed dial, and she's the person who trained me, and she responds when there is a crisis. When we had the crisis in Lebanon, she's the person who gets the DBARS team involved and all that. I would say that the rollout, the next phase of the rollout of the big 10-year mental health plan is probably in the next 8 months. We're hoping that we actually have services on the table by the fall. The transformation project that you may or may not have been invited to for juvenile justice, for the CANS assessments that's going to happen with any juvenile that's police involved or anything like that. I can tell you right now that Lebanon this part of the state is the pilot. So we will be ironically, we are going to be first ever. We'll be the first one. So things like the strengths and needs assessment will be done on kids. We'll be able to do that. Like Matt would be able to call us, and one of us would be able to do that with kids. So I know that services haven't been enough, but we're addressing that, is what I'm saying. And like I said, if you need a connection to Ann or people like that, that's not hard for me to say. Here, this is the person's email. She's important.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, do we have any other comments or questions? And I'm not seeing anyone in the public that has recently signed on. Anyone else on board? Well, Andrea, thank you so much for coming with us and giving us this update. And like I said, we'll probably all be working together to continue on with the mission to make sure our kids are safe, and we greatly appreciate all your work and everyone involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, continuing business, we have the student representative
Oh my
report.
gosh, me again?
You've been the star of the show tonight.
I know. Well, I feel like we can kind of happier thoughts, a bunch of students are getting their vaccines and they scheduled their appointments and there's been lots of talk about it. I scheduled mine. It was originally the 23rd, but got it sooner, so it's gonna be the 17th. I'm excited. That we're finally getting it able for kids, and I know that the kids will someone will say something about it and they're like, what? And so we're word of mouth, it's getting out, and I have a feeling there's gonna be a lot of kids that will get it. And I feel like that's gonna be good for the district, because when we come back, it'll be good. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot going on, but there's not a lot going on. And I don't really, wow, she stole my thunder. I really don't know, wow. I don't know what to say. Well, yeah, the production's going well. Fall sports, or not fall, we're not in the fall. Spring sports, there we go. Spring sports is going well. We, baseball and softball have games next week, I'm pretty sure. And I know track, we have one at Hanover on Tuesday, so exciting. I feel like we're really getting where we need to be, especially the seniors, because it's how many, 2 months left?
June 11th.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited, but not at the same time.
Don't stop counting, Isabel. Time is counting.
I've been counting since my freshman year. I'm excited. Definitely not the senior year I expected, but I'm happy that Project Grad and faculty and Mrs. Long has definitely been very supportive in making sure that we do somewhat try and get a senior year. And I know Project Grad, our auction went so well. I'm very excited. How much did we, do you know the rough?
I do, just over $10,000.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a great turnout. The community support was amazing.
It was fun. There's cool stuff on there too.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, so I have a feeling that's gonna be super cool towards the end of the year, senior week. Yeah, I think we're having a senior picnic. Yeah, I feel like that's gonna be fun. I don't know what we haven't had a class meeting, so I have absolutely nothing. Why are you?
You're doing fine.
Your report, girl, not mine.
No, but I feel like the students are doing well. Yeah, would you look at that, April break next week. Oh, I really, love my breaks. But I have a feeling it'll be good. And sometimes March is a long month. It's always the longest month because there's nothing really. We go from Christmas, February, and then April. So I definitely feel like kids are starting to chomp at the bit because it's getting warm out. It's exciting, and people are wearing shorts, which kind of scares me. It's a little cold out still, but I have an excuse. I came for practice. That's the only reason I'm wearing shorts. But I feel like we're definitely getting excited for spring, and it's gonna be exciting. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's.
Isabel, have you found anybody? As much as I don't want to replace you, you will eventually graduate. So
I
have
will.
you found anybody? Have you found anybody interested in running for this position? Now is the time to start looking for somebody who's interested, so you're not, caught on the last day of school going, "Oh no."
Yeah. So I do have a gentleman. I was gonna bring him tonight, but then I kind of saw what was on the agenda, and I was like, I feel like in another 2 weeks maybe. So I will be conversing with him, and he said that he could most likely come. His name's Colin. He's a junior, super nice. So I will be, because he was my alternate for the running. I don't know. I guess that's what we do. Yeah, so he might start making a appearance every once in a while. I don't know how many meetings we have left. I don't know when my last meeting is, so. I don't know.
Whatever the last one before you graduate, that's it.
Yeah.
Just keep you here indefinitely.
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to put that bug in your ear. That's all. I just wanted to put that bug in your ear.
Yeah, so we'll definitely maybe start to get him in here. And then it's all up to the election.
Yep.
Next year. And I hope that you guys do get someone as great as me.
What are your post-graduation plans?
I will be attending SUNY Cortland in the fall. So
Congratulations.
for people that like, it's like it's like in the center of New York. It's like half an hour from Ithaca and like 40 minutes from Syracuse. So it's pretty central New York. I will be majoring in therapeutic recreation. And I think I might minor in geriatrics because I want to work at a nursing home as an activities director. So that'll be exciting. Yeah, it's kind of a lot because I don't know anyone 5.5 hours away, except for my family. So I guess that's good. But yeah, I don't know. I
That's
feel like,
good. Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. It's
My
exciting.
mom went to SUNY Oswego, so it's a good school.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely exciting to hear all of the seniors talking about what they're doing like after school, and like it's definitely a conversation starter, especially for like the kids that I don't see like on a daily basis. Like I saw a different kid that I don't normally see because he goes on a different day, and he's like gonna be going to like Georgia, and I was like, that's cool, and like it's just cool to see where people are going, people that I've known most of my life were veering off, but I definitely feel like it'll be super cool for everyone to definitely have a life outside of school. So it's definitely exciting to see where the people will go.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Definitely feel like it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Like, we have a
Question?
interesting group.
And congratulations on your new job.
Oh, thank you.
It's gonna be the big director at the aquatic center now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you want to Milan the next time you go there.
Oh my
you
gosh,
say?
yeah. Next week I'm going to China, with my campers. I'm a camp counselor. It's my first week there. I'm kind of nervous, but it's fine. At the aquatic center, and they're doing like a tour of the world through the summer to like bring kind of like everyone together, I guess, because it's been such a hard year, and to like really just like bring everyone together. So we're going to China next week. We're gonna build some walls, and we're gonna watch Mulan and have fun.
There you go. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is our communications committee report. Yeah.
Yep, so we met I have no sense of time anymore. It was just last week. It was less than
It
a
was
week.
only last Thursday.
Last Thursday. It seems like forever ago. But last Thursday we met. I was nominated for the chair, and I accepted the nomination. So you're stuck with me again. We spent some time talking about the new website. We had conversation with our IRS and high school librarians to discuss kind of visibility and some things that could happen there. And then we talked about the new Mascoma Schools app. So if you don't already have the app, it's available on your, Tim is holding it up in the.
There's
in the
an
screen
app?
now. There's an app.
I feel like is that in the announcements?
I don't know if it's in the announcements, but you know
There
what,
you go.
it is, it's
Brand
like
new.
board by the road, so that's like
Yeah.
better than any announcements.
Yeah, I know, I never I try and focus on the road.
But you can, yeah.
My
So
ADHD.
the app is a great way, a great connection to things like the calendar, to news notification. Each of the different schools is represented as well as board. So if you're ever looking for school board stuff, you can go to the app among other things. So
My wife just texted me and said, "Is the fastest way to get a link to this meeting?"
yeah, that's true. It is. It's a great way to be able to just get all things Mascoma. And if you have feedback about the app or the website, you can send that to Kamala, and she will take a look at your suggestions and see if there is an easier way to do things. But the rollout has been of the website has been very positive, I think, for everyone involved. So thank you so much for that continued work. We did talk about Google Analytics and looking at making sure that the website is in fact giving us the data that we need, so we can figure out what people who are coming to our website are searching for, and making sure that those are the things that are front and center. I was talking gibberish to them when I mentioned checking bounce rates and referral pathways, but that's something that I'll be looking at. And then we also talked about some policies, a couple of which we wanted to see if the New Hampshire School Board Association would be updating, because it seemed a bit outdated, so we didn't want to go ahead and move forward with something that they were going to be changing. But policy JICE, we did look to bring to the board. I don't think we have it in this packet, but do we have it in this packet? JICE, no. Okay, so it'll be in the next one. Any questions? Our next meeting is June 3rd. Great. And I will say one last thing is on June 3rd, and I suggest that all the committees be looking at the strategic plan as we gear up towards the next retreat, just so that everyone has a chance to really think about that in advance. And that way, when we come to the retreat, we can have some ideas on how we're measuring up to the strategic plan initiatives in the midst of COVID, so we know how to retool things, and so that we have a sense of where we need to move for goals for the next academic and fiscal year. Thanks.
Thank you, Danielle. Next up is our superintendent's report. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, Cookie. So you do have my written report in your packet. I would say that it is fairly short. I did want to just put out, we will have retirements, and just a well wish to our retirees, a lot of service years leaving our district, but we're happy for them, especially in the time of COVID. We are happy for anyone that gets to retire. The second portion of my report is in accordance with policy IIB and IIBR to meet the requirement that in April, the superintendent shall notify the board of anticipated class sizes. So you do have a look at class sizes there for each of our schools. I also did want to just put out a reminder that the budget for the 21-22 school year did cut 3 teaching positions due to declining enrollment, especially at the elementary levels. So as you're starting to look at these numbers and you're seeing that class sizes that were in the 50s and the 60s, maybe 5 years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, especially I can remember those at Canaan Elementary School, you're starting to see those sizes, average out between 30 and 40. So we've sort of hit a plateau there. But we have noticed that we need fewer teachers as we are moving those kids through. IRS and the high school will continue to have some strong numbers because, as you can see, 8th grade next year at IRS is one of their very large group, and they're projected to have about 100 students in that class. So we're ever mindful of those numbers and looking to make sure that we are not overstaffed at any of the buildings, but still meeting the needs of our students.
Okay. Any questions for Amanda? Thank you, Amanda. Business administrator's report. We have finances in our packet.
Yes, the March financials are in your packet. We're still in good shape for the year, so I anticipate bringing projects that need to be done that did not get into this year's budget or next year's budget to finance and facilities on the April 21st meeting. So we'll bring a list of projects that we're looking at for April 27th, this next board meeting, along with capital improvement. We're finalizing those numbers for all the projects that we're planning to do through the capital improvement plan. The other thing we're working on is the ESSER money. The ESSER 2 funds you've already approved for $917,526. We attended the commissioners meeting this week, and the estimate is 2.33 times that amount for the ARP ESSER 3 number. So that would be $2,137,836. So we're looking at how the projects we need to do with that. It's going to have to be at the 20,000 foot level, I would say initially. Blue said that he was doing us a favor by not releasing our allocations right off, because once he releases them, it's like bang, 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 60 days. And then we have 30 days to figure out how we're going to spend all this money. I do know that a chunk of it will go towards the ERV systems, air exchange systems at the 3 elementary schools. We had a walkthrough. We brought back Roger Hutchins to go through everything that we have. We'll be finalizing what we need to do and then engaging a mechanical engineer to do the design. So we will do this right, and it will work with our Metasys facilities management software as well. The other thing I wanted to share is the Frontline implementation, which is the substitute scheduling software that we are rolling out on April 15th. It will schedule substitutes, but it'll also take the place of our leave requests that go through our Infinite Visions right now. So Infinite Visions will still do W-2s and pay stubs and that stuff, but you'll put in your request for leave through Frontline, which is a much simpler software to use. And I do want to give credit to Kamala and Kendra and David Allen for all the work they put into it. Kamala's done an amazing job in getting this, so we're ready to go. So we're very excited. And I think that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Deb? No. Okay, thank you. Next up is the Mascoma Valley Regional High School fourth quarter learning plan update. Yes, I will be introducing Mr. Tom Fitzgerald.
Yes, I would love to let you hear from Mr. Tom Fitzgerald. So we had this on the agenda prior to the governor releasing emergency order 89, which stated that schools must offer 5 days a week of in-person learning. It doesn't mean that parents have to take advantage of that. So I did send out a message to the public on Friday, just to calm some nerves, because people were worried we were going to take away the remote academy. They were worried we were going to force them back into school, even though if they had medical issues. So there was a lot of concern in the public. I'll be honest, I had not given a good study to order 89 when I sent mine out, because I needed to calm people down. As we start to go through, and this is true for all school districts in the state, as we start to go through emergency order 89, you will notice that there is one question that I will have of the board, and I will be looking for the board's guidance. It is in paragraph 3. Paragraph 3 says that school districts shall retain the option to offer full-time distance learning, which would be our remote academy, and I would highly suggest that we do that. Or hybrid instruction that encompasses aspects of both in-person and distance learning. So that means we could have students in the building 5 days. We could have still students that are out remotely for 5 days, or we could have students that continued on their AV cohort. So they'd be in every other day. So if the board decided that the hybrid instruction would be something you would want to continue, we would need to do some shuffling. I will say we would need teachers to teach synchronously, because teachers right now are doing 2 sets of plans, one for students who are remote, one for students who are in person. So that would mean it would be synchronous lessons happening exactly at the same time as they were being taught. So those students who are accustomed to getting up in the morning, checking Google Classroom, doing 3 or 4 hours of work, and then going to hang out with their friends would no longer be able to do that. they'd be on a regimented schedule, which means they would need to watch, the lesson and continue on from there. I just don't see any way being fair to the students, or to the teachers rather, of having teachers continue to create all these lesson plans. So it would be, we would move our hybrid to a synchronous model, and we would really need to shuffle and find the technology necessary to be able to do that. So we'd be asking the board for that. I want to introduce Mr. Fitzgerald. He has done an excellent job of looking at how he could get all the kids back into this building, maintaining at least 3 feet of distance, with most classrooms still at 6 feet of social distancing. Mr. Fitzgerald, I'm done.
Thank you, Mrs. Bell. So when we started looking at this, even when we looked at this time around last year, when we started this journey, one of the issues we have is that at the high school, we have, even right now, 18 classes in our 4-block day that push the limits of somewhere between 22 to 27 students in a class. 2 examples are, we have a geometry class of 25 and an AP stats class of 27. So there is no room in the building, regular classroom, shall we say, that can accommodate that. So to make that happen with all kids back in the building, what we would do is, thank God we have a gym with divider. We can put the divider down, the covering on the floor, and I can turn that into 2 classrooms that would accommodate these classes that are too big for regular classroom. I've talked to Mr. Suddy about how we tackle the technology. We have a couple of these lovely boards that we can set teachers up with appropriate teaching stations. We have a schedule for who would be in there. Because of our wind block that's split in 3s, we can now split that into 4 25-minute sections. That allows me to do 4 lunches, which allows us to state about the numbers we're accommodating in the cafeteria right now, which we max out at about 80 students a lunch. The weather's getting better. We are also really fortunate that the class of 2020 bought us that lovely 20 by 40 foot tent that our plan is to put up outside here so kids could eat outside, weather permitting. Another place that's an issue for us is our special ed rooms are cramped, but by moving some of those teachers into the gymnasium, it opens up some bigger spaces for that. Another tricky spot for a high school is, since our teachers, we don't do what IRS does, for instance, where kids go to each room first thing in the morning. So we have a plan to put freshmen in the cafeteria, sophomores and juniors in the auditorium, and seniors who arrive, if not on time, fashionably late, they can have the library and the lobby so we can socially distance everybody in the morning. We can ramp up our screening. I've been doing the back door forever, and Ms. Guinness has been my right-hand person, and so we will do the back door. Ms. McIntyre and Ms. Virgin have volunteered to do the front door so we can accommodate the volume in screening. So we still have some tweaks. We found out about this on Thursday. This was all I've been thinking about since. So we can get all kids back in here. We have a survey out. We asked people both options. Right now, it doesn't look like, it doesn't close till tomorrow, but there doesn't look like there would be much migration one way or the other. Speaking with students, they're torn whether or not they want to come back in the building every day or if they want to stay in the current model. The staff is really leery about bringing everybody back in at this point in the year all at once. If they had their choice, they would probably compromise and go the 5 days in our cohorts where everybody is learning synchronously, either at home or in the building. I think that would be, in my view, that would be a good middle ground for everybody, kind of status quo, getting kids more face-to-face instruction. There are some issues with that. We don't necessarily have all the technology. And even though Craig and I have been kind of proactive, we've gotten some new cameras and we have some new systems that if we had to do this long-term and more plug and play, and we're not turning around Chromebooks and doing all that kind of stuff. We haven't had a chance to really use them. That's kind of what we're gonna tweak over vacation. And then we didn't want to buy a lot of them until we made sure they work. But there's also a lead time now in getting any kind of technology, whether it's headphones, microphones, or any of that kind of stuff. So we can make it work. The staff has done a great job of making this all work for this amount of time. So we're on it, we're working on it. You tell us what we're doing and we'll get it done.
So Tom, I want to clarify, the staff would be in favor of continuing with a hybrid model.
They would, I think they would be more comfortable with the hybrid model, and if we move to the synchronous part where it wasn't work at home days, kids were online from home. I think that's a middle ground, makes everybody happy, kids are getting more instruction, and we can still keep the numbers in the building at a level we feel has been manageable so far.
So offering we put out the offer of 5 days a week, come in if you want, but if you want to remain hybrid, you could still be hybrid.
No.
Oh, because we have to offer the 5 per.
All right, so if that's the case, we don't feel like we can handle the high, like, that will just be the load that crushes them, to have to do that. I mean, if we're gonna go 5 days, then we'll have everybody in 5 days and then just do the remote model that we have.
I will say before Tim jumps on that there is an option for a waiver. In listening to the Commissioner of Education, you had to apply for this waiver. It had to be a dire emergency. And he is going to be having a committee of people looking them over. And I'm not sure, I mean, I would, at the direction of the board, write that waiver. However, I'm not sure what emergency I can really call if we already have K-8 teachers in full-time 5 days a week. So that's another option. Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
No, I might as well start with this question since it's on topic specifically. So if we switch to a 5 day a week where everybody has to come in 5 days and remote kids can stay remote, the remote kids are logging on every day and taking class synchronously with the kids that are there in person. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Okay. What's the difference between that and having half of the kids in person doing that from home and staying hybrid? To me, there's no difference between running a remote and running a 5 day at the same time, where you're just taking a handful of the kids out, because not every kid is going to come 5 days and not every kid's going to stay hybrid. But they have to teach synchronously to the remote kids anyway. Is it a fact? Is it like there are just some classes that have no remote kids and so they've not had to do any of this? Just because when I've watched my own daughter do remote, she logs in at the same time. She does class synchronously. She does class at the same time as the other kids. She has it's 1:10. I got to get on for Spanish, and gets on and does that. So I'm just curious what the difference is between doing it 5 days with a hybrid and remote versus 5 days and a remote.
So, Tim, here's the difference. Hybrid would be, what you're talking about is that they should just be remote for 5 days, right? There's only 2 options. You're either remote for 5 days or you're in the building for 5 days. We can't deal with, I'm here on Mondays, I'm here every other day and I'm remote those days. It's a big difference between a teacher that has 1 or 2 kids that are remote right now and a teacher that all of a sudden is going to deal with, for instance, Beth Stager has 27 kids and she has 13 of them now that want to learn remotely. Asking a teacher to do that in April is unreasonable.
So I guess what's the difference then if kids that are hybrid now in a class of 27 where, let's say 22 of them are going in the hybrid model now and 5 of them are remote. what's to say that if we say, okay, it's 5 days, you can do either remote or 5 days a week, what's to say that it's not going to go back up to 13 anyway? And because there are parents who are saying, well, I don't want to have my kid in there if it's 5 days a week for everybody. They're happy with hybrid and reduced numbers, or they're happy with remote. I just say this because the irony of this is that, the governor wants kids to be back in school, and he's like, oh, it's so important for kids to be in school. However, this type of order prevents my kid from going back to school, because she was thinking about going back in fourth quarter, because of risks and everything. And she was like, okay, if it's hybrid, then that might work. But with this, it doesn't work that way. So she actually has to stay home because we're not completely vaccinated yet here. But I was just curious what the difference was in that. But that makes sense.
It's a nightmare to manage attendance when I only have a few kids that are remote. I have kids that are checking in the Google Classroom, and I have kids in the building. Now to try and juggle kids that are decided, well, I have kids that are 5 days, kids that are remote, kids that are coming every other day. We might as well just open this up to show up when you want or get on a Google Meet.
I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but yeah. But if the class, meets at 9:15, then they got to get on. So, all right. And then I guess my other question is, what is your plan for traffic flow? Because if we're doubling the number of people that are coming in, and we ask parents to help out with reducing numbers on buses, so that means there's more parents driving. That means if we get everybody back at the same time, we conceivably double the cars up there. Is there any plan for somebody to direct traffic flow and make sure that it goes smoothly?
We're waiting till tomorrow. Part of the survey was, how will your child get to school? Are they going to ride the bus? Are they going to drive themselves? We find for the most part, juniors and seniors do not ride the bus, and they park down below, so that doesn't really impact the traffic flow. We thought this was going to be a nightmare in the fall with everyone traveling in and out, and it hasn't been an issue. We'll have to see, right? We have a whole lot more time to plan than we do right now.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
There's a lot of unknowns.
Anyone else? Has some questions for John before we take a vote? Daniel?
I know that the survey is still open for parents. Do we have a sense of where parents we're leaning before not before, but knowing that the survey, we actually opened our survey before the governor decided to, drop this on everyone. What was the sense of what was coming in on that survey as far as how parents were?
So both are relatively stable. They're staying, it's staying about the same. I don't see right now migration either way. We were at about 20% of our kids at the peak were remote, and 80% were in the building. Yesterday it was 85-15, but we only had 115 responses. So that's still in flux. But like I said, I don't see a major migration either way at this point.
Mm-hmm. And the options were there for 5 days a week in person for everyone, 5 days a week for just seniors, and stay within hybrid. So what was that breakdown?
That was the first survey, and then we sent out the second survey when we got the governor's order.
Yes.
So the one that closes tomorrow is the governor's order.
Yeah.
I don't have the numbers for the survey with the seniors.
Yeah.
That was kind of mixed. Off the top of my head, I think 20% just wanted the seniors back. 40% wanted to stay one way, 40% wanted the other way. So it didn't change a whole lot.
I know that we already have Hartford kids that have been going to school 5 days a week. So
Right.
we do have that model. We have the K-8 model of kids going back to school 5 days a week. I know I mentioned last time, perhaps there's some learnings that we can have from going back. I agree with everyone that it's not going to be pretty and it's likely to be painful. But we might be, maybe the silver lining is that we work out some of these kinks and salvage salvage a few months left of the school year and are able to apply those for next year so that there's maybe not as much reentry issues that we have with kids and families. But yes, I totally agree that it's gonna be, it's gonna be tough. I mean, I've had lots of conversations with my own kids and with the others around them and, you know, and they're mixed, but they're mixed for different reasons too. And I will say that one of the things that has come up most frequently in my conversations with high school students has been around, a real craving for stability and structure, which you wouldn't necessarily think of when you're talking to teenagers, but that's been one of the things that has come up in conversations directly and indirectly is worry about constant flux. And I don't think that there's really a way around it with the governor's order at this point, but it is something that they're thinking about as well. And
One of the major fears they have is that there will be some kind of outbreak. They have AP testing coming up that cannot be made up.
Mhm.
And that they'll be quarantined and they will not be able to test. They're also pretty worried about some kind of outbreak on June 7th and kids not being able to walk.
Yep, those are some of the conversations we've had in our house. I do hope that this year that the College Board will, last year they allowed AP exams were taken online. I do hope, and I believe that there is an option.
They are,
to do
but they
that.
have to be proctored in school. They do not have the option of taking them home.
Okay, all right,
So they were a whole lot
Yeah.
more flexible last year than they are this year.
yeah.
I will say the best news for our seniors is that they are now eligible to get the vaccine, right?
Yeah, and there are a
So,
lot of them that are taking it.
and I think that's great. I know that the high school sent out a notice to them. So, you know, if we really promote that by the middle of May, like Isabel said, she's getting her shot on the 17th, shot number 1. So by the middle of May, you know, hopefully it's close. It's a very tight timeline, but hopefully some of those kids will be vaccinated. So I think Mr. Fitzgerald has created a plan that's pretty solid so that we can safely say that we could open with some social distancing of at least 3 feet in classrooms, most classrooms retaining 6 feet. We've been very successful at K-8, very successful with this model. K-8, we've learned a lot. So I think it is something we are pretty safe to do, is to comply with the governor's orders. That being said, if the board directs me to write the waiver to ask to not, I will do that, but that is at the discretion of the board.
Well, we have our 3 options in front of us, so I'll entertain a motion to see where the board wants to go. Anyone? Well, I'll put it out there. I'd like to make a motion that we offer full-time instruction and the remote academy instruction. And not have the hybrid model. I think the hybrid would be a little bit too much for our staff. So those are the 2 options I would like the board to consider tonight. And do I have a second to that motion? I'll second that. Thank you, Candace. Discussion.
Did Hope want to say something?
Oh, did you have something?
No, I hit the wrong button, but I am I'm a little confused when Tom was talking about the hybrid model in terms of the he was intimating that it's going to be extra lesson plans for the teachers, and I just didn't quite understand that. If all of them are synchronistic, I just didn't, you know, I mean, I understand, I absolutely hear this is last minute. This is going to be hard to implement. There are more moving parts with that 3rd option. I didn't understand why the lesson plan is an issue if everybody's doing the same class. So that's one. And I guess maybe a bit of a more discussion, you know, like in terms of which is going to keep, I mean, we really are looking at this variant coming in at us pretty hard and strong potentially. And I think that you know, if we have to pivot to remote, what's that look like? And, you know, what's the easiest in terms of the choices we have? So.
As far as a pivot to remote goes, Hope, I will say that the emergency order 89 does only allow me to put us into, excuse me, remote instruction for 48 hours. After that, I have to have permission from the Commissioner of Education to continue some remote instruction. And that goes for either a school or a group of students. So that does put some limitations on, you know, what I'm able to do. That being said, it certainly was easier at the high school when we were cohorted AB to do some contact tracing. And while there was still some students that were sent home when there were positive cases to quarantine, we were still able to keep the classes open for the most part.
Sorry, I mean, that's the contact tracing definitely came up to my mind. I mean, if we're looking at this variant, it's a much different story than what we've been looking at in terms of, you know, you're probably having to contact 2 or 3 times, 4 times as many people. So
at this time, the New Hampshire DHHS has dropped the requirement for contact tracing in contained areas or controlled environments, if you will, down to 3 feet. So we're no longer at the 6 feet rule, which allows, you know, for the social distancing to be down to 3 feet, because we only need to contact trace at 3 feet. So if we are in classrooms that still have 6 feet, or even taking large numbers of kids and putting them in the gym, then we're still able to keep them at 6 feet, which we are being told by medical professionals that that is a safe radius.
Anyone else?
I do have a question. What thought has been put into in between classes and shifting and hallways? I know we have one-way hallways, but now we're potentially unleashing a double the number of students in the hallways in between the bells. What are we doing to, I know it's a short time, but is there anything being done to be able to try and stagger that or give them more time or anything like that? And without lockers, I know it alleviates some of that straggling.
I feel like if students are wearing masks and you're not spending more than 15 minutes, your contact is really very limited, even if they are passing through the hall at the same time.
The hallway has been, I'm jumping in for Mr. Fitzgerald. The hallway has been exactly that, and we actually have time limits on the students per the memorandum of understanding to reopen schools. So I don't believe the students can be out in those hallways for longer than 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes.
Cool.
So they're able to walk the loop, and I will tell you, it's a long walking loop. But it's been manageable, and we've seen no issues because of the quick time and the wearing of the masks as we move people around.
Cool. I just want to make sure we're not forgetting anything.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. So anything further on the motion? Okay. We will do a roll call vote. Kim Josephson.
No.
Hope Strudnow.
no.
Bruce to go.
No.
Kathleen Stacy.
Aye.
Danielle Thompson. Aye. Candace Fry.
Aye.
And Cookie Hebert is an aye. The motion carries 4-3. Yes, 3-0. Thank you. Okay, educational funding in New Hampshire. I know that's not your thing anymore. Always have an update here. Is it there?
I just a real quick update because it's a long meeting. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they are having State House sessions, so plenty of bills on there. So check your email and what New Hampshire School Board Association has sent you. I also found out about that HB 593 that we had talked about. It has been retained by House Finance, which means they will sit on it for another year. So
Okay, good. Well, thank you.
that's my thoughts.
Agreed. Noted for the minutes.
That's right.
Public.
Public comment response update. I think we've been pretty current with everything.
Yep. I'll respond to Mr. Lenahan's comments.
Thank you. Aspen Institute, Project Play, nothing to report, okay? And sports update, I think we got a little bit.
I would like to ask the board that we remove that update as a standing issue. I will have them do some quarterly reports and also report. But I think as a weekly standing item, with the permission of the board, I'd like to have that removed as an agenda item.
Yeah.
We right now have regular season, as Isabel stated for the high school starting next week, and Indian River School started baseball, softball, and track practice this week. Update complete.
There you go. And I see they're working on the field down there. They're doing a
Yep.
lot of work down there. This looks good. So we'll be in good shape. I know. We'll do the best we can,
I know.
right? All right, so continuing on the new business. We have the National Evangelical High School Scheduling Committee update.
So I have given you pieces of information on the committee, the scheduling committee at the high school. They did start that. I asked them to have that wrapped up for us in April. It's been quite a task. It's been, as you can see by Mr. Lenahan here, giving some public comment onto block scheduling. I have also shared with permission emails that I have received from parents with you all. So I did ask April Guinness, who is one of the facilitators of this group, to come and give you a brief update today. She will have a more formalized presentation, but this is sort of a, how much farther does the board want us to go? And sort of the recommendation, and I don't want to steal all of her thunder, but the recommendation right now of the committee is that they have not been able to create in the short time span a schedule that they feel meets the needs. So they are, in short, asking, sorry, April, I'm just on a roll. They're just asking for a little bit of, for another year to continue this. So I think then the question to the board would be, where would the board like this schedule to go for next year? You had approved a block schedule for this year, for reasons due to COVID. And so we would be looking for the board to weigh in, if not tonight, at least give us some information that April and her committee could present to us at the next board meeting. April, I'm sorry, go ahead, if there's anything left.
Sure. As Amanda said, the committee has really kind of asked for more time. We felt that we didn't have enough time to do the job well, and that's what we wanted to do. So we would like to take next year to investigate more scheduling options and to investigate them further. So we would like a temporary schedule for next year.
And what type of schedule are you looking for, or what would the group consider to be back to an 8-period day, 7-period day?
April, I think, has some results. They did do a survey. April, would you go ahead with the results of the survey?
Sure. So the committee was surveyed, and the recommendation that we would like would be to keep the current block schedule that we have with modifications. And the percentages were 64.3, I think, percent voted yes, and then the rest was no. And I know that there was some question about the facilitators voting. So if we take out the facilitators votes, it was 60% yes, 40% no.
And did you survey staff also?
We did survey staff, and we asked them if they would be in favor of extending an MOA. And we had in the 70% range for that. I can actually bring the numbers with me. And then the other question was if they would be in favor of sort of having the same schedule but with modifications. And that was 73% voted yes.
So you can see that the 2 surveys that were done did not include any parent input. So if that would be something that the board would like us to move forward with, we'd be happy to do that. I would say in recent days, I've certainly received a lot of parent input regarding block scheduling. So that might be a nice logical move for, the next step in this process. But I don't think we can wait much longer than, ooh, when's the next meeting, Deb? April 27th, because that does put some time crunches on the high school and programming and the scheduling and such. So are there any other questions or anything else we can, Tim?
Mr.
No,
Fitzgerald.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
So if we're gonna, survey parents, I'm gonna advocate for my kids and say the people that this impacts the most are the kids, and we need to survey them.
Makes sense. So what's the modifications that you speak of? Like with the block scheduling is,
So some of the modifications that the committee talked about and that feedback from the staff was around WIN. We did have students on the committee and they wanted more opportunities for WIN than what we have currently. We needed to make some adjustments for the music program, the unified arts programs, taking some classes and making them blocked for a quarter instead of a semester to allow some more flexibility. We would look at the special education aspects of the schedule and the advanced placement.
Tim,
I have a question. You said you surveyed, this is for April, you said you surveyed the students and the staff and faculty. How many students responded to that survey and how many staff responded to that survey?
The survey was to the faculty and staff. And then the committee consists of students on there. I believe there were 6 or 7 students. I can't remember off the top of my head because they didn't all make the meetings. So
So you didn't survey the student body, it was just a survey of the students on the committee?
correct, the committee.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
And I guess on the committee, how many times was the committee able to meet?
We met starting March 1st. We met twice a week, Mondays and Fridays for an hour.
Cool, all right.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
About surveys. The committee felt like we wanted to survey the students and the parents. We just weren't at a spot yet where we could really do it justice. We didn't want to just send out a do you like me, yes or no type survey. We wanted it to have some like meat to it. And so we spent a lot of time working on our criteria that we would then use to evaluate the schedules. So we just need more time.
so if we went back to an 8-period day, while the committee set forth what they would like to see for the future, with a little bit more substance in it to be able to get an overall view from parents, students, the faculty, and so forth. Is that something that would be of interest now, or is that something you still don't want to go back to because for fear of not being able to get a block scheduling schedule back here?
The feedback we got was, and talked amongst the committee, was that we didn't want to keep constantly changing the schedule
Right.
on the students. And that we still needed to take the COVID precautions into play. And so we didn't want to go from a block to an 8-period. And then if we decide that we want to go block, we've now changed the schedule on kids 3 times. And that's a lot. We were also concerned that students who have been remote or have been, at this hybrid model have been doing okay with a 4-block course load. And that bringing them back to 8 now means that they can have anywhere from 6 to 8 classes. And that might be a little much for them to handle coming back in full-time in the fall, so.
Okay. All right, questions, comments?
So just, I'm curious with your last comment about them having difficulty kind of reacclimating when they come back in the fall. Is that because they're going to be so far behind in their set of studies because they've only been doing 4 blocks that now that we're asking them to do normal coursework that they would struggle to catch up? Or do you feel that it's just the structure of changing and having more courses than just it being 4 sets of blocks?
I think it's a combination of just having more to handle and executive function wise, like that's a lot for them to keep balanced, is keeping track of, 6 to 8 classes when, if we're in this block model, they have 4 that they are focusing on. So,
Thank you. Anyone else? Kathleen?
Well, from the feedback that I received, there's a lot of concern about the block schedule because it limits so many options. And that's one of my concerns too, is that I don't feel that it's justified to pose that limitation on maybe currently now at this time, and then going forward in the fall for next year. I would prefer to see the 8-period day. I'm thinking that the options will return so that it's more opportunity for the individual student.
So that's a myth. Because when we're in an 8-period day, at best, students take 7 classes, most take 6, seniors take 5. In a 4x4 block, students get 8 credits a year. We don't have study hall. We have one block where they actually have their classroom teachers to go to for help, which in a regular schedule, they do not have, because our teachers are not available during the day to help them. What we are doing by, excuse me, what we are doing by going to some classes to be quarterly, that gives us the flexibility that people said we didn't have. But kids can get many more credits in a 4x4 block than they would get in a regular 8-period day. Because none of our kids sign up for 8 classes.
Cookie, is there an opportunity for public comment?
Yes, we will. Yes, yep. Just hold on a second. So I guess the modifications that you spoke of earlier, I'm still trying to wrap myself around that. So the troublesome spots were music or arts, or what were the most troublesome spots that you found with the block scheduling of not getting what they were looking to do with
some of the kids were concerned on the committee that they weren't allowed to take band because it conflicted. So that was one of the modifications that we wanted to look at. And some of the unified arts, people on the committee were concerned that their enrollments had dropped. And so we felt like if we had gone to quarters for some of those classes, that would open up more sections for them and they could get those numbers back up.
Right. Because I'm sure some of those classes were limited on some pieces because of the COVID situation as well. So now with the influx of coming back full-time, and of course anticipating a full return in the fall with this block scheduling, how much of an issue is this going to be for the ones that were out on remote and are going to be returning to go to the band, unified arts and so forth? I guess that's where my thinking is, you're trying to make it as uniform as possible for all of these students to have a fair chance of what they want. But yet, we're trying to figure out the scheduling piece as well. And I'm not that familiar with how all this works in a school day, so, bear with me, but, because like I said, I've just known an 8-period day, that's how I would know, you got band fifth period, and, you got a study hall, you're at band anyway, so, but, and I will have to say the concern that I have seeing kids throughout the day and talking with them. There's a lot of anticipation of coming back. And they really are excited about it. I had maybe 2 or 3 out of maybe, let's say 20 kids that I've spoken to in regards to coming back. That were like, no, I kind of like this hybrid thing because I get this day off and I can do this and I can do that. But the rest of them were all excited about coming back. But one of their concerns was, some of the scheduling pieces that they weren't familiar with and how they were going to get thrown in the mix. So I guess that's where all these questions are coming from. If they're not quite into, how everything has been working. And I don't want to see them come back and get discouraged, So like I said, I'm just trying to understand where everyone is with this. Oh boy.
So Cookie, you have it worked out. If we're allowed to keep WIN in our current schedule.
Mhm.
One of the concerns with block was that if you were in band and chorus, you would only be able to take 3 classes because you would be tied up in band and chorus. With WIN, and thank you, Ms. Morris, our new music teacher, she has consented to do band and chorus during Win 1 and 2, which gives her 70 minutes every other day, all year long to do band or chorus. So kids would get that all year long and still have the opportunity to take 4 classes each semester. So they get 8 credits and they still could have band and chorus. Okay, what Win does is, like I said, so if Connor has A&M duty and his free block is first block, but that's not Miss Duty's free block, Connor has no opportunity during the day to get help. A&M duty is free during Win, Connor is free during Win. She schedules him and he can get up to 70 minutes of help from Miss Duty. That is something we do not have in an 8 period. Our teachers, especially for lack of a better term, our high flyers, have found that to be an invaluable time for our kids. So that's been added value for us. Also, we've put in spite of the pandemic, a wonderful SEL program that there is no provision for in an 8 period day. Also, we used to have to, whenever we had an assembly, have to run an assembly day schedule, which shortened everybody's blocks, was all kinds of disruptions. If we go back to having those things, we all hope we do, we can use Win time and never touch academic time, which needs to stay sacred in this building. So even though people think they've lost a lot of academic time this year, they really haven't, because we haven't had any disruptions. I mean, we would like to make like a full presentation to you. And I know one of the concerns early last year when I brought this up was it was too rushed. We didn't have time to research it. Well, we've been living it now for 9 months. And it's been working. So.
Even with the remote kids, the hybrid model, even with that, I mean.
Well, we certainly
that's what
don't
my concern
believe
is. I
that we've gotten what we would get in a full year of day-to-day in-person instruction, 180 days. But our teachers don't feel like the gaps are as big as they could have been. You know, the other way to think about this is if I give you 1 ball and you throw it up in the air, that's pretty easy. If I give you 2, it's harder. Most jugglers can do 3 or 4. We're asking some kids to do 7. And they don't have, their brain's not developed to do that kind of executive function. Plus, high schools were really departmentalized. So you get to this week, the end of the quarter, and the poor kid that has 7 really academic classes is hit with everyone wants their work in this week and nobody's coordinating, and that's 8 hours of work at night. That's a lot to ask kids. So, like I said, we have 74% of the staff that believe this is the best model for our kids.
So is the committee stopped meeting at this point? No.
I'm sorry.
The
Our
committee
last
stopped.
meeting was on Friday, and then Bernadette, who is my co-facilitator, and I, we met yesterday to put together our presentation so that we could share it with the committee and look for any possible modifications or edits that we needed to make before we brought it to Amanda and then to the school board on the 27th. We would like to continue to work. The 2 days a week we felt was very exhausting, but if we would continue to work this year, it would be once a week. And then in the fall, pick up again.
Yeah, what's the
So-
board's thoughts?
Go ahead, Daniel.
I was gonna say, I mean, I know that I have some concerns about the, just about how we're incorporating, again, I've had lots of conversations with kids and families, that have students that are taking advantage of the Hartford career programs, and I know that there's been some difficulties with that. And I don't want to see us perpetuate some of those difficulties if we can avoid it. And so that's why I think that having that feedback from students and from parents would be really helpful at finding what some of those pain points are and seeing if there are either additional modifications or things that can be implemented in the next year, knowing that the idea is to have next year be kind of a transition year in thinking about how best to move forward. You know, I do have some real concerns about that. I think that I'm not sure if there's enough time to get in all the stuff people want. And I also think that I remember back to the 8-period day, and it's always been essentially a modified block, right? Because if you had AP classes, you had 2 blocks for some of, you know, for some of the lab sciences. So even when people say an 8-block schedule, 8-period schedule, it's always had some component of a modified block as long as I've had a child in this school system. And so, you know, to me, I'm trying to figure out like what would be the major benefits of thinking about keeping a 4x4 block where you have some classes that are only for a quarter versus a semester versus spreading that out over more periods during the day. And that, you know, and that's probably something that needs further conversation, and it's not going to be decided right this very second, but those are the types of things that I'm trying to resolve in my mind as well. Some of it is preference, learning style preference, and teaching style preference. And some of it is logistics. Like there are all those components that factor into curriculum design and scheduling. And so it is a very complicated type of work that you guys are doing. And I have no doubt that there's been a lot of energy, a lot of conversations, a lot of good information that's been passed around, and that you feel like you need more time, because I think you probably do. I think we all do, because it is kind of complicated. But then we have to figure out what do we do in this time right now. And I would be very reluctant if we had to make a decision right now and not wait until the next board meeting to at least get a little bit more feedback and input from the stakeholders that we haven't included in this, namely students and families. I would be hard pressed to support keeping a block, because I think that we need to have, if I'm part of the decision-making process, and I feel like I don't have enough information yet, even though I'm living it with 2 high school students right now, right? I feel like I need more input from other people who have had similar or different experiences, and to share that, because it is, you know, it is just a really important decision. You know, I have kids who said, I've been able to manage the block for the hybrid because I'm only there every other day, but being in a class for 2 hours, 5 days a week is kind of freaking me out. So, are my kids the only one that have those kind of concerns? I don't know. I would like to hear from other people.
Kim?
I just have I have a question. If the committee was able to look at any alternative schedules or anything that kind of hybridized between an 8-period schedule and a block schedule, because there are ways and there are methods that you can get the best of both worlds, and you can get all your classes, you can see everybody, and not be overwhelmed with a ton of classes every day, and stuff like that. I was just wondering if the committee had any time to look at like anything like that.
We have about 9 or 10 different schedules that we want to look at. We only were able to look at the 8-period day, the current block with a wing, and then an AB block. And that's it, because we didn't have time to investigate the other ones, because there are some, for like a waterfall schedule, there's a 75, 75, 30. There are all these different types of schedules out there, and we just haven't been able to investigate them all because we don't have enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think being able to look at all those options really well, and closely is important. I went to a school that did a modified hybrid block schedule like that with an AB. It worked very well. I've talked about this before, but I appreciate your, looking at very creative. And I think that might be a solution for the school where you get, the benefits of a block and the benefits of an 8-period day and, the selection and stuff like that. But I'm kind of with Danielle in here in that I am leaning toward an 8-period day with, where you can have modified like the AP classes with a longer lab time for double up, things like that. Just because there's more questions and I don't have all the answers in front of us yet.
Can I say something?
Sure, Christie.
Yeah, I've been listening intently with everybody's comments and everybody's opinions and you guys almost already know my opinion from way back anyway. It hasn't changed one bit. But I've been traveling all over the state this year, reffing basketball this winter. And that was one topic I got a chance to talk to administrators that happened to be at the schools I was reffing at. And I asked them what they had. I asked them what the pros and cons were. I asked them what they had. They had the block schedule and they have 8 periods, 7 periods, whatever. I understand, when I went to high school, god awful, whenever it was, years ago. Yeah, senior privilege was great because I got all my credits ahead of time. And by the senior year, I was, ready to rock and roll and get ready to go to college. And I think that's a privilege for these kids in senior years. So I understand the scheduling situation, but I still don't fathom where the argument about teachers not being able to see their students to get help, where, I don't know, maybe I'm old school, but I probably am, but a lot of teachers I knew, especially when I went to school, and I don't know, I've talked to, like I said, I've talked to these other schools all over the Lakes region where I went this winter, and teachers make themselves available to students after their class period or when they got free time, even though if you go to back when we had 8 class periods, even when a teacher had their they call it their quality time to do their planning, that one period, kids could go there if they didn't have a class, but they made arrangements. I don't see the argument where it's not one kid going to spend 70 minutes with, that's why I push for tutors. I pushed for tutors years ago with this board. I felt the disservice to the lower half of the academic group because there's kids there that need help. There are kids that they're not in the upper echelon. They're not the ones doing AP2 and geometry, whatever. And, and I do hear about the Hartford VOTEC situation. Kids are not getting back in time. And that's tough. But I admire the staff we have at the high school and all the schools. But I still feel that if you ask them on a survey to the teachers, they make time for students that need the help. And I think they would. I mean, there's no reason why after school they don't need to be piling out of there at 3:15. If a student says, I want to see you after school for something, and I'm not going to, I got a half hour before I go to play in a sport. I just, I'm sorry, but I am totally, I didn't like the block scheduling to start with. I still don't like the block scheduling, and I haven't got any opinions to change my mind about it because of all the schools I went to this winter. When I asked them if they had block scheduling, and like I said, I know a lot of them where I went. I went all over the Lakes region and up north and, Timbuktu, but I understand the arguments you're getting from the administration's throwing this at us. And I'm in agreement of waiting until we hear some more information from the students. The seniors are on their way out anyway. They just want to go off to college or go to work or wherever. And I don't want to see us go back and forth, but I just don't, I agree with, an 8-period or 7-period. 7-period doesn't make sense, I guess. 8-period, you can double up stuff, which does make sense. So, I mean, I'd like to see the board, the rest of the board members, we table this until we get more information, but I've wait till the next board meeting, and then we would, kind of try to have the schedule on the meeting kind of laid back a little bit so we can really get into this and get it resolved. I mean, not have a huge meeting on the agenda instead of, this situation here. But as I said before, I understand, administration is going to do what they want to do and ask what they want to do. And as I said, I haven't found any arguments to go along with this, to go along with the block schedule. And as I said, I've asked, and unfortunately, I'm not the one that's going to be politicking for the block schedule.
Okay, thank you, Brewster. Do we have any other comments or questions? Yeah.
The only other thing I would say is that if we are looking for a quick turnaround time, to get some of that input and feedback from students and families, it's not on, I absolutely understand where the committee is coming from as far as not wanting to like waste the time of people to put a survey in front of them that doesn't have a lot of meat on it. But I think at this point, we're looking at something that will help guide us to what is a transition type of year, as to allow the committee to do additional work, to research the different options and really think about what all it means for us. So if we're only giving them essentially 2 options, which is kind of what we've been asked to consider tonight, that's probably the lowest hanging fruit, would be to ask those stakeholder groups for their feedback about if you had to choose A or B, one of these 2 choices for the next year, what would be the option that you would prefer as a student or as a parent, knowing that you've had these kind of opportunities. It's going to be this was such a weird year anyway. There's going to be so much. There's just going to be so much that everyone's going to have to relearn or redo as far as structure and time and material. I'm a little. It's a blip in the screen, so I'm a little less concerned about the continuity sake of things, because there's been no continuity to this year. I mean, it's just been everyone has had so much thrown at us, whether you're a student, you're a family, you're a teacher, you're a community member, like there's just been so much thrown at us. I'm less worried about that continuity moving into the next year, but I totally agree that it's not something that we want to change on the regular, because you need to have something in place that is reliable and consistent, so that we can really take advantage for both curriculum planning, staffing, and academic rigor. It's something we have to all think about.
Great. So just going on to what Danielle said, just there's pros and cons on both sides. And no matter how much, people have been fighting against the block scheduling, some of it's worked because, we're still here talking about it and we're still here considering it. So I'm hoping that maybe this 8-period day and the block scheduling, and you talked about some different components of mixing things up, modifications and so forth. We can get the best of both worlds and try to figure out what we can do, which would be best for our students and staff. So I would be in agreement to come back on the 27th and then make a formal decision then with a presentation from the committee in regards to what they feel they can present to the best of their ability to suit our students and as faculty and what will best serve the district. So if that's okay with our fellow board members, if you're all in agreement, we'll bring it back as an item. It'll be an actual presentation. I think that would be best. And then, we'll have the survey results, and then we will have the public comment, and we'll try to do whatever we can to make sure everyone is heard fairly. So,
Cookie, can I just,
Yes.
so the board is in agreement, from what I'm hearing, that we would all like to move forward with the committee's recommendation for another year. but have a presentation on what next year may look like after they receive student input and parent input. Okay.
And I think the important piece like Daniel brought up, because some of those conversations I had were with Hartford students. You know, I see them every other day, taking them over. And so some of the conversations were sometimes they don't hear what's going on here and they don't understand where they've been left out. So just keep that in the back burner that, you know, these Hartford kids are very important kids for us to.
Well, I know, I teach Hartford students.
Yeah. So, you know, from 10th on up. So, I appreciate that, but sometimes they do feel like they're left out. So it'd be good to have that conversation with them. Thank you. So anyone else before, oh, Tim?
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify. So we're going to come back on the 27th and they're going to present, and then we'll decide if we're going to do an 8 period or, continue with some modifications. But with the idea that next year, this committee will continue to meet, continue to research and survey and stuff like that, and then come up with a final presentation of what they would like a permanent schedule to be for the 2022-2023 school year. Is that correct?
I believe so, Tim. Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we get our timing right and that sort of thing. So I just want to make sure that we are still have not finalized anything for this year, for the 2021-2022 school year.
I personally think of it as the professional development committee that we have in place, and I think this is an ongoing, continuing shuffle. I mean, as our school population either grows, declines, or however, we're still gonna have to deal with these issues. So if we have a committee in place that's able to, do a lot of that legwork for us, I think, we might be on the better road there to make sure everything is handled. So, anyone else?
Cookie, my only concern is that, that when we reach out to, you said that the stakeholders, the parents and the kids, that we're not just giving them the choice, okay, do you want this block or this? Because what I heard tonight is that this committee has already done and has some good suggestions for modifications that will kind of allay some fears that seem to be out there. So that those modifications that they're already thinking about, so that the public and the parents and the students can know that they're considering them right now, and they would be part of the mix for next year if you continue on with the block. Does that make sense?
It does. And that was where my question was. I just wanted to be sure that the modification that they spoke of is going to give the clarity that some of the parents and the teachers have no clarification on right now, or the opportunity to engage in those classes or those opportunities. I want to make sure that they're all there in one way, shape, or form. So I know there's going to be compromises in a lot of ways, a lot of areas, but hopefully going through this past year, knowing what we know now, knowing where the board stands, where we would like this direction to be for all involved, a better opportunity for all. So I'm hoping we'll get that clarification on the 27th and we'll have another discussion.
So between now and the 27th, they are going to survey parents and students for what they would like for next year?
I believe so.
Okay, and then we will continue to do work regardless of what we choose for next year. We will continue to do work throughout the entire next school year to come up with a finalized, knock on wood, schedule.
Right. That's
Okay.
right.
All right.
Anyone else?
Yeah, well,
Brewster?
but my question to that is, if it's a modified block 8-period schedule, why aren't some of the classes double classes? Double periods. I'm hearing that there is double periods for if you go to 8 period classes. There is like AP and the other couple other courses. I don't have them right in front of me, so I don't know what classes we're talking about. The other problem is, what are you doing with the health classes in the gym if you're going to be utilizing the gym? What are they going to do?
They go outside.
That's not for next year.
No, he's just worried, the question is going back to, COVID.
Yeah, they're going outside.
They're going outside. PE will go outside.
Okay.
Do
I
we,
don't know.
Any
Okay.
other questions? Seeing none, we'll table that until the April 27th meeting. Thank you, Jim, for coming and staying.
The only thing I was just gonna say was that maybe survey the IRS families too, that have kids coming in. Because
Good point.
Yeah.
If your parents. Okay. Well, April, you took that note, right? Got that?
I was thinking, they're next.
Okay, preemptive. All right, so next on our agenda is the results from the SAU land survey. And Amanda.
Deb actually will give you a
Deb.
report out on that.
Yeah, so, you have the letter to, the SAU's neighbor in your packet, along with the survey results from the survey company. We've noticed over the last year that our neighbors seem to be getting closer and closer to the SAU land. We didn't used to be able to see them, and now we can see them very clearly. So, we contracted with, Cardigan Mountain Surveyors, and he came out, and you can see the survey. The main black line is the boundary between us and, 3 companies that own the property along Route 4. And you can see that they're 22 feet over with their fill onto our land, which totals just under 2,000 square feet. So we did talk to the lawyer who was copied in the letter I sent, which I mailed on Friday. Yesterday, Keith Hess gave me a call and said that he would be moving some of their wood piles. He asked me about we have temporary buildings. He thought they had to have a 15-foot setback, but they need a 50-foot setback. So I referred him to Rob Taylor at the town of Enfield to come visit him and show him where he should not be. So this was, to protect the SAU land, which belongs to the school district, all 5 towns. And also, the other liability part of it is we are responsible for our wetlands, even if somebody else is filling them in. So this protects us from the DES coming back on us and making us pay for remediation or whatever else would need to be done.
Right.
So,
Any questions?
just something more fun to do in my job.
You're welcome.
We're out traipsing in the woods.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
I
We
think
do
that'll be
have,
the end of it anyway.
right, we do have four policies tonight. Policy JI, JIC, JICD, JICD-R for first reading.
I can just give an overview on these cookies. So these are, it was a special policy update from the New Hampshire School Board Association. And all of these policies have been adjusted according to RSA 193.13. And they have to deal with discipline of students, basically. So that's why you're seeing, the J category has to do with students. And so some of these deal with discipline. Some of them are not that old. But like I said, there was an update to RSA 193.13. And so they have been legally adjusted because of that.
What can you motion?
I'll make a motion, sorry, give it from me. I'll make a motion that we approve for first reading, policy JI, policy JIC, policy JICD, and policy JICDR.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kathleen. Any further questions or discussion?
I had a question and it was on JICDR, and I know this is a lot of housekeeping and cleaning up of stuff we don't have or should have and stuff like that. My concern was on page 3 of 5, under section H. This has to do with when does a school report to a police department? Some of them, I'm fine, unlawful possession of firearms, arson, burglary, yada, yada, yada. The one that confirms me is H, thefts of property with value is more than 50, repeated occurrence of theft of 1 student. And it says thefts by students who are in 3rd grade or lower are generally not reported to the police. I would like to change that and say 8th grade and lower, because I don't think we should be calling the police on 4th graders.
And what would the pleasure of the board be? Discussion?
I don't object to that. I wonder why third grade was chosen to begin with.
I think it probably has to do with the RSA and like what like they can and can't do. But I think if we have the leeway and the option, I think there are better alternatives, that we can do, and that doesn't have to be the first thing that we do.
I mean, Cookie,
Well,
even now, Tim, if somebody damages a seat on a bus in their
Yeah.
high school kid, we
Yeah.
have to pay for the damage, but we don't call the cops.
Oh, I know. No, I know. And I'm not suggesting that we do. I'm just, thinking long-term policy and things like that.
No, I agree with you.
I know. I know.
I mean, I think that's a legitimate change that we could make. It aligns with the way that our schools are set up. So essentially, if there was something that happened at an elementary school, that would be kind of a different case at the middle school where you have the 5th or 8th graders. So I think I would be fine with changing that to 4th grade or lower.
I've always considered sixth grade and another elementary anyway.
I know.
I just
Yeah.
always. So-
They are.
I know.
That's an upper elementary school.
Yeah.
It's not a middle school.
Right. So you want to change it to 8th grade, Tim? Was that?
Yeah. I mean, ideally, I'd like to change to 12th grade, but I mean, 8th grade is a good start, so I'll go there. I just think that, and if they're in our care, we should be doing everything we can to try and use every solution that we can to mediate and help them.
Correct. That's fine. Okay, anything else? Okay, seeing none, roll call vote, all those in favor of first reading for JIC, JICD, JICD-R with the correction, with the one change on the JICD-R. We'll go with Tim Josephson,
Aye.
Hope Stragnow,
Aye.
Bruce to go,
all right,
Kathleen Stacy,
Aye.
Candace Fry,
Aye.
Daniel Thompson,
Aye.
and Cookie Hebert is an aye, and the motion carries 7-0. And they will be back on the 27th for second reading.
Cookie, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can we back up to the one that she just brought up, Deb did about April 2nd on that situation? Are we gonna get recouped for losses on this? Is the lawyer gonna, it costs money for the surveyor and all this other stuff. Are we gonna end up, if there's any damages, gonna end up getting reimbursed?
No, we're just doing our due diligence and protecting the taxpayers of the district. And that has cost to it sometimes.
No, I just was asking if there's, gonna be a financial loss on some part of that, and then that's all.
Good question. I guess the good thing is we don't get slapped with a whole bunch of environmental fines if you build in a wetland, so.
Okay, that's all I'd ask for.
Good question, Bruce, thank you. Moving on to the agenda items for the next meeting, besides quarterly reports, committee reports, staff retirement celebration. We're gonna have the discussion on the block scheduling or the recommendation from the scheduling committee presentation.
Yep.
Deb, will you have any more information as far as the financials, or will that be coming in May?
I may have that for the 27th, but if we're gonna talk more about scheduling, maybe I'll hold off for the next meeting.
Okay. Good idea, right?
Because we can, and that'll give Rod a little more time.
Because I like to keep this meeting as light as possible, because it's gonna be a very lively discussion.
Would the board prefer that the principals just present give written quarterly reports and not do the presentations?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that might be in the best, just because I do know that we will have quite a lively discussion on the presentation. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I would say push them off, but you'll be looking at handbooks coming up in May.
Yeah, no, we need that. Okay, that's fine. Tim, did you have a question?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say if they can just be available for the following meeting, if we have any questions about their reports, that's all.
Sure. Yeah.
If that's possible. I mean, if we need it, that's all.
I mean, they'll be coming back to us for the handbooks.
Yes.
Right, so we can ask.
Yeah. Harrison can just email us his slide deck.
7-page report.
That's right.
So do we have any other?
Yes,
Um,
on the
yes,
27th, we should be having an introduction to the new candidate for a student rep.
Right,
Mm.
are we bringing?
So technically, that's an elected position.
Oh.
So that won't be elected until next fall.
Yeah,
But
I think
Colin-
these are back up already.
Colin Selby has already been elected, so he could be coming here. So we will make sure that we do introduce him if he does show up.
Okay.
Okay.
I
But
thought
he is
they had elections in June.
elected to this board
Yeah.
as an alternate.
Okay.
Has he ever met the board before?
He has never been here before.
Okay, sure. Because I was thinking, I have no idea who this
No,
person is.
he's never been here.
You might not want to be on the board after this next meeting.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, Cookie, I brought this up before and the curriculum director's report, are we ever going to put that on as a item to look at or discuss or, especially I realize that this has been a crazy couple of years, but in terms of the academic performance, that kind of thing. It's usually just put in the packet, but we don't ever really talk about it. So I don't know if I have to make, how that works or something to talk about or a motion to be made or just
No, that's,
include with the.
yeah, no, I heard that, Hope, and what I would be doing is having the curriculum director produce a quarterly report. Just as the SPED director, the tech director do. So that will be a change that will be made next year.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment. Dan.
I'm still here. I just quick, because I'm gonna jump on Ms. Isabel's little thing here of enrollment. If they, in fact, the elementary school has plateaued at these numbers, right now, if you take grades 1 through 6, there's 433 students. If you take 7 through 12, there's 533 students. So if this is our future, I can also give you one other number. If you take the enrollment number from 12 years ago and this enrollment number, there are actually, the difference is actually bigger than the entire population of the high school. We've lost 374 students in the last 12 years. So, and this appears to be our future. Because if grades 1 through 6 are going to become 7 through 12 as it goes through, we're losing 25 students a year. Statewide, they're losing about 9,000 students per year in the public schools in New Hampshire. So we're either going, what's probably going to happen is what's happening in Vermont over the last 5 years. There's going to be fewer districts because you can't afford the overhead.
Right. True.
So I'm just throwing that out now because as the school board, that could be your future, and I'm glad I'm off budget committee.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
And I do not believe we have any public on Zoom.
Everybody left?
No, we didn't have anybody.
Oh, there were a couple. There's none in there.
No.
Yeah, there were 6 people. You have to
They raised their hand.
see the
Oh, she
participants.
did?
Yeah, 2 of them are related to me.
How did you see that?
If you're on, so if you're on webinar, you don't unless you're logged in as a panelist, I don't think you see.
Attendee.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought they logged her in as a panelist, though. No?
I just switched
Yeah,
it, I just got the listing for the attendees, so I
Yeah,
was
okay,
just looking at
yeah,
the
yeah,
panelists.
yeah.
Oh, just 30 seconds more.
Oh, sure can.
I love the new website.
Woo!
The first time I can say when there was an upgrade, it actually made it easier to get in. And you actually could find out who you wanted to go.
Works very nicely.
Yeah.
And that thrills me to no end. I am so happy to hear that because Camilla worked so hard on that, and we took a lot of input and hopefully people can find what they're looking for.
So
I found the app.
my apologies for anyone that's in attendance in the public, because I just switched over to the other screens and I always see everyone, so Is there anyone that has any public comments?
I didn't see anybody. Oh,
Diane.
there's Diane. So
There's
just
Diane.
Push the allow to talk
Oh,
real
there it
quick.
is.
There. Now she can. Say hi.
Diane? She's gone.
Gone?
No, she's there.
Is she? I don't see her anymore.
Oh, she ran away.
Yeah, she's gone.
Wonder if she pushed the wrong button.
Yeah.
I hit allow talk.
Oh, I see public now.
She ran away.
Yeah.
Well, my apologies, Diane.
That was my bad. I don't know how I did it, but I did it.
Who is public?
Do you not know?
I didn't lose my hand. She did,
Diane did.
and Pamela was letting her in, I guess.
I know.
It
was like the
going
perfect
to the
storm.
dark side.
It was a perfect storm.
Oh, no.
I'm here, finally.
Oh,
I just had a comment. I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of my English colleagues tonight, especially for Natalie Palella, who teaches English Academy. She has the lowest level readers and writers. I also teach workshop in 9th grade, Shannon Hurd in 10th grade, and so forth. And I'm not saying either way, whether I'm for or against block or the 8-period day, but what I do want you to consider or to be considered is that our lowest level students, they need reading and writing year round. I mean, at least school year round. And they're the people that are going to be a part of our community for a very long time. They're the people who are going to, you know, we're going to go to for services and for other things along the way. And we really owe them. We really need to work with them, and they lose such ground, especially a student who might have had reading first semester this year, and then the way block would work out that they might not have it again until second semester next year. And I know we can do block, you know, double blocks and everything for our upper level students. We need to keep in mind those students who struggle and put them at the forefront as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, is there anyone else from the public? Okay, seeing none, I believe we have personnel resignations and nominations.
You do, Kimberly, would you share the green sheet?
Hi, Dan.
By Dan,
Hi,
thank you.
Dan. Thanks for coming.
The staff resignations, the nominations / notifications.
I did see that one in the packet, so I got that one in the packet.
Look at all that.
Yeah,
You want me to share it though also?
yeah, just please. The first sheet, I will continue on because most people can see it if it's in the packet. So the first.
She didn't send me that one.
I'll bring him to the next meeting because I can't recall his name, but due to low numbers and he had work commitments, so he
You have
did
it, Tim?
resign.
He does have it.
We also do have the resignation of Walter Hammond, which is sad, but he does have work commitments and other some professional racing that we wish him the best with because he's doing quite well. Other than that, you do have all of those resignations. Some of these are one-year positions, as I was stating before I got stuck. So those were just kind of fill-ins. Those people have officially resigned the position, which was very noble of them to do. We also are losing Kelsey Winkler to go to a PhD program in I think South Carolina. The next few pages will be your teachers. at each building. I will state for the record that we did promise that there would be a change of classroom teacher at the Canaan Elementary School, down one classroom teacher. So if there were any questions as to why all the classrooms teachers are still there, coming at the next meeting will be a transfer of one of those teachers into a rating specialist position that was vacated by Helen Benham. So in case that was a question of anyone. Then you have the Enfield Village School teachers, the Indian River School teachers, and the high school teachers. And the final page puts out teachers who are not on a continuing contract, which used to be called tenured. So you can see that those are there. We do have listed their 2021 locations. So that is their current location for the 2021 school year. And that would be subject to change at the discretion of the superintendent. If there were any concerns about any of these nominations or resignations, I would suggest to the board that we enter non-public. Otherwise, if there are no questions or concerns, we don't need to.
Anyone need a reason for non-public?
Oh, we're not having non-public otherwise?
Oh, no, I do have other non-public.
Yeah.
Start to
Okay,
talk
but
about
just specifically for these teacher nominations.
I didn't want anybody to jump in with questions about a person.
I'm not gonna jump in, but I want to go into non-public. For that reason.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All right, so
It-
right now, are we done discussion right now in regards to the personnel negotiation, resignations and nominations? For right at the moment until we go into non-public. Anyone have anything else before they? Okay. So Bruce to go non-public and Tim Josephson for the second. So the roll call. Bruce to go,
Yes.
Tim Josephson,
Yes, I'm sorry, this is for RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2, B and C.
thank you so much. Hope Stragnow,
Yes.
Kathleen Stacy,
Yes.
Candace Fry.
Yes.
Danielle Thompson.
Yes.
And Cookie Hebert is a yes.